So I'm 12 years in with this watch, and I think this is when conventional watches peaked in terms of raw functionality. So you've probably heard about the history of the G-Shock. If you haven't, it's all over the internet, but to save you having to Google, the short version is that in 1981, Casio set out to build a tough watch that could handle a 10-meter drop, 100 meters of water resistance, and 10 years battery. 200 prototypes later, they still hadn't found a solution. The lead designer then sees a bouncing rubber ball in a playground, realizes the rubber was cushioning the shock. The team then designs a watch that is encased in effectively a rubber bumper, not dissimilar to putting a smartphone in a rubber case to isolate it from shocks. In 1983, out comes the first G-Shock, the DW-5000. That kicks off a whole line of G-Shock watches, and then later in the 90s they launch a reissue of the original square G-Shock, which is this, the DW-5600E. I love the bezel and integrated band look of this watch. I mentioned on my Casio video that I remember thinking this watch looked like a digital AP Royal Oak or a Nautilus. It almost has a dystopian 80s look to it that's just so cool. And compared to some of the other G-Shocks, it's quite slim and flies under the radar a bit more. I got this watch in 2010 and it was my beta/sports watch for the better part of a decade. I wore this through various jobs working on a farm and in an engineering workshop, as well as in the gym, mountain biking, and just about everything you could throw at this watch, short of being in the military or something. It'll be no surprise that this watch is totally fine. The grey colouring you see on it is paint from a trailer I was fixing a while ago, but it's completely unaffected otherwise. This watch is actually super comfortable, probably the most comfortable I own, and I think it comes from the slightly slimmer design versus other G-Shocks, the lightweight, and then you have a pre-curved band which molds the watch to your wrist. So by 2018, I started exploring the fitness capabilities of smart watches. I think for me, the role a watch like this has evolved a bit since then. Nowadays, I wear my Garmin and before that, an Apple Watch when I'm on the bicycle or in the gym. The additional data and functionality from something like a Garmin has replaced the G-Shock for me. The Garmin's giving me performance data, a wide range of health metrics, as well as recovery data. It's even telling me the weather conditions. So what's happened to the G-Shock is something we've actually seen before in watches. For example, the traditional dive watch. They both started out as a piece of advanced technology and were then gradually made obsolete. The dive watch was basically made obsolete by the G-Shock, and now the Garmin has made the G-Shock obsolete for its design function. There's obviously edge cases where one watch is better than the other, but I'm thinking in terms of the everyday user here. So now the question is whether the G-Shock is still relevant and why does it exist? And I know you guys already know the answer. G-Shocks have now transcended their original design functionality and evolved into their own kind of fashion statement. And I mean that in the best way possible. G-Shock is its own thing. I mentioned in my Casio video that G-Shock are the Air Jordans of the watch world. They've reached a level of cultural significance that they've become their own thing. And putting all of that aside, this watch is just bloody cool, and you can get one for about 150 Australian, so you just can't fault it. So comment down below, I'd like to know what your first G-Shock was, and what your favourite one is now. And if you've got a moment, please like and subscribe. Thanks.